Hey everyone, Lord Necrozoman here, and welcome to the dark side. We're going to be talking about another nostalgic game for a lot of people, and take a look at Luigi's Mansion, one of my favorite GameCube games. It was made back in 2001, around the same time the GameCube came out. I think one of the first games for the GameCube. And I guess I'll just start talking about the graphics. It looks amazing for its time. The enemies, Luigi, all of the models for everything in it looks pretty good. I'd say even compared to by today's standards, it still looks pretty decent. Not everything is extremely detailed. Well, some of it is. I'll get more into that a little later. But the graphics of it do look pretty good, especially for such an early game for a system like the GameCube. I mean, a lot of other games in that time didn't look very good. I'll talk about some of those other games in other videos, but today we're talking about Luigi's Mansion, of course. So yeah, the graphics are pretty good, and now I'll go on to the plot of the game so you can get a better understanding if you've never played it or seen anyone play it, where the plot is that Luigi has won a mansion in a contest he never entered, and upon entering it, he finds it's completely dark and that there are ghosts everywhere. With the help of a scientist that lives in a shack right outside where the mansion is built, he helps you escape the mansion and heads back to his laboratory, where he explains that the mansion just appeared a couple days ago and was filled to the brim with ghosts, some of which include ghosts that he had captured and, using some weird science, had turned them into paintings. But King Boo came in and reversed all the paintings back into ghosts. And all of them hid inside the mansion that they built in about a night. And you also find out that Mario has gone missing. So then your job is to use like a vacuum a vacuum that he made in order to go through the mansion and catch the ghosts, Ghostbusters style. And now I'll talk about the setting of the game. It's set in like a really old mansion. Like I mentioned, it was built in like a night, but the way it's set isn't like those really old mansions you might see in some horror movies where it's like hundreds of years old or a few hundred years old and it's all dark and spooky. That's exactly the kind of mansion that this is. It's enormous as well, with a ton of rooms and 3 floors, a basement and an attic. I mean, it's a mega mansion, you could say. And the detail in each room of the mansion is pretty decent. Like each room has something special, has some kind of theme of what mansions back then used to look like. There's a room that's just filled with old vases. There's a room that's filled with There's a room that's filled with huge suits of armor. There's a cemetery in there. Who's buried there, I have no idea. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of rooms. Each of them is themed in some way, but they all have a consistency of being relatively old, aside from a few rooms which are somewhat more modern, because some have ceiling fans, and one of them has a pool table, and there's even a room that has a projector inside it as well. But it still all fits the theme of being an older mansion, because older mansions, you can still like buy an older mansion if you spend more on making it more up to code, because those things can be pretty old and easy to just blow over because they're so old. Alright, next I'll be talking about Luigi, who is my favorite Mario character, aside from maybe Rosalina. Luigi's a coward. Everyone knows that. He's a coward, he's clumsy, but for the most part, he keeps himself together. In the game, they do not shy away from showing you that Luigi is, well, in fact, a coward. But upon discovering that his brother is stuck inside the mansion somewhere, he takes a deep breath, pulls up his big boy pants, grabs the Ghostbuster vacuum, and heads back into the mansion to look for his brother. And next, I guess I'll talk about the bosses in the game. The bosses are all ghosts, as you would assume, and the way the bosses work is that each of them has a special way of being. Each of them has a specific weakness that you have to figure out in order to be able to catch them. The first one, you just have to look. The first one is pretty simple. You just have to look away from him because he's like this it's like this middle-aged father just reading books in a study, and when he yawns, you turn around and try to suck him up. And then there are others that have less specific ones that you might just think about and then figure out on your own. And some of these bosses are also optional. Most of these bosses you have to defeat them in order to progress, because when you defeat a ghost boss, or you defeat any ghosts in a room, the room lights up and something is revealed, or you're able to continue walking through the mansion. Like doors will be blocked off, or door will be locked. And when you brighten up a room, you'll more than likely either be able to continue walking through, or you get a key to open up the door. There's quite a few rooms in the game that are completely optional to open up, but then there is a reason to brighten up every room in the mansion. Next, I'll get to the second part of the plot, which is that that a bunch of boos are inside the mansion. They're sleeping in like this blocked off area that you can only get to after getting through the first area and entering the second one, where you accidentally open a hatch and then release all of the boos all over the mansion. There's actually 50 boos, and there's 50 rooms that they can appear in. There's, I think, 6 or 7 other rooms, not including outdoor areas, because there's a few of those in the game that you have to look for all of the boos for. And you actually do need to catch some of them. You don't have to catch all of them to complete the game, but you do have to catch some of them to get to a certain point in the game. To be able to finish the third area, you actually do have to get not all of them. You have to get a little less than half of all of the boos in order to progress. And it's a similar thing when you get to the final boss. You do have to collect a certain amount of them as well. And it turns out that the final boss is King Boo, who has Mario stuck in a painting, because it's always a painting when it comes to Mario. And the final boss is King Boo possessing possessing Bowser, who is enormous in the final battle, in order to defeat Luigi. And yeah, the final boss is King Boo using Bowser as a vessel, which is honestly really cool. If you've ever seen anyone play the game and fight the final boss, you'd see how cool Bowser as a final boss is in this game, which is honestly pretty good, which is honestly I'm honestly satisfied by, because in most in most Mario games, when you finally face Bowser, it's not really all that great. But this one, they handle it pretty well. It's set in like an arena where he'll like throw spiky mines at you, and then with your vacuum, you have to be able to like try to suck one in and then let go and shoot it out at him so that his head pops off, and then King Boo comes loose, and you have to slowly try to suck him up, all while avoiding Bowser, whose head is detached, but he's still shooting like ice balls at you, which damage you and freeze you, allowing King Boo to escape and get back into Bowser's body. And as a as a final boss, that is amazing. Next, I'll talk about the one of the things that I like to do most in the game is getting all of the treasure, because it's throughout the entire mansion. There's coins, there's dollar bills, there's gold bars, there's all sorts of gems hiding all over the mansion, and it's honestly really fun to be able to be looking for all of these secret items, and because when the game finishes and you beat Bowser and all of that, you get ranked based off of how much money you get. And some hidden gems are much more difficult to find than others. Like some can only be available at most of them can only be found at a specific point in the game, usually right before you brighten up a room, because there's a lot of ghosts that are hidden because there are a lot of ghosts that are hidden in the mansion that don't attack you, but whenever you defeat them, they release a whole bunch of gems and gold and whatnot, all those things I mentioned. And back to the optional bosses I said, there's 5 optional bosses in the game that are not too difficult to take care of, but can still be difficult in some way, or are just interesting to figure out how to beat them in order to suck them up and then get the reward. And they each drop pretty decent items that all are pretty helpful in being able to get the highest rank possible. I'm not sure what really I can say about this game that others may not have said. It's a early GameCube game that had decent gameplay, some decent replayability, and looked beautiful and had a decent plot. I'd say the overall rating for this game would be a 9 out of 10. It's not perfect because I completely forgot about the secondary mode. After you beat the first game, or after you beat it for the first time, you unlock a special mode where you take more damage, but you also do more damage to ghosts. And it makes it easier to get better rankings when fighting against some bosses, because you get ranked each time you fight a ghost boss, and some of them can do a lot of damage, and if you take one hit while using the special mode, then you can give me a sec. Sorry about that. So as I was saying, yeah, the mode makes it a little harder to get a better score for all of the bosses that you do, but even so, I'd say this game is still a 9 out of 10. It's not the perfect game because it can get kind of boring if you already know where all of the secrets are, so then it just feels like you kind of have to do it if you want to get a perfect score. But otherwise, it can still be a fun game, and it can still be a challenge, and it's just overall a decent game, especially for its time. I think it was a great sign that Nintendo had some great things in store for us. And I have some great things in store for you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and share if you like me. Follow me on Twitter if you want, and thanks for watching. See you guys.